Hello and welcome to Top Sim. My name is William Lebowski, and today I am bringing something unique and different, and something that comes highly recommended from me. I think this is quite possibly the best track available to you in all of sim racing. And I know that's a pretty bold claim, but I think if you watch this video or at least a lap, you'll understand why. What we are looking at here is the Las Venturas Street Circuit, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because it is the Las Vegas recreation from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So if you are to look in the description below, you can also find the link to the track, which is, I'm being forthright, it is a link to another YouTube video. It is the fellow that created this track, him doing a hot lap to show you around. But the download link is a Google Drive link, so it does look a little bit sketchy, but I promise you it is one of the best tracks in all of sim racing. So very much recommend that you go check it out. The channel, to make sure you are in the right place, the channel's name is 00, and it is in the description. It is the only thing in the description aside from the timestamps, and it is a link to a Google Drive page. So do not be surprised when it's not Race Department. It really is a crime. This needs to be on Race Department. It needs to have more eyes to it because this is such a fantastically well done track. And let's talk about the track for the first little bit now that we've gotten a chance to go by. Number one, let's talk about the realism of the look, and that is aided by many things. But I think you'll find, if you've gone through and tried to find your dream track, or to try to find a track that's really niche and specific to you that maybe isn't the most popular track in the world, or maybe it's brand new, like Miami or Vegas F1 GP tracks that are coming soon. Those kind of tracks can look really plain and boring, monochromatic in color, and they just do not visually look appealing. Where if you take a look here, and especially the street we're driving down as we head down into the main stretch, everything is lit up. The track surface is multi-dimensional. It's not just one color gray for your road. You have all of these different brakes, rubber on the road from the different braking zones, and there's just so much in all of these side details. And if you'll notice, some of it is pretty similar to Vegas, but if you'll look closely, and if you look at the map that's linked in the description of this video to a Reddit link, you'll be able to see all of the GTA specific POIs that have been added. It's just an incredible attention to detail. And then the other thing that makes this track so realistic is the signage, the barriers, the curbs themselves, the placement of the curbs, the general type of layout, the type of fencing and barriers that was chosen. It's just all done so well. And it's shocking, it's amazing, it's a must-have for anything sim racing related. I personally have only raced a couple different RSS Formula 1 cars, which will be the next topic. Hint, hint, buckle up. But I've only raced F1 on this track so far. But even the creator shows it off in a Ford. No, I'm sorry. It's a Corvette C7. I thought it was a GT, a Ford GT. But it is not. But alas, there is so much that you can do with this track because it is so... It's just made incredibly well. I don't know if I can say that any more times than I already have. But the attention to detail, it's fantastic. And these parts of the track that are incredibly narrow for these tight city street circuit corners are amazing. The different chicanes, the one I'm going through right now, is so much personality. And especially, you really want to try to avoid the curbing. And these little S's combined into this hard braking zone. You just have to step on the left foot and don't forget it. It's just an incredible level of detail from like this narrow corner right here. But right now, the track opens up to this really wide exit with access to a curb before the barrier. So it's just, you could really race a lot of different types of cars here. It is a bit long of a track. You're looking at a little over 2 minutes, a little under 2 minutes 10 seconds for a lap. And in an F1 car, that is a significant amount of distance, so it is a little bit longer than maybe you're thinking it is. But quite frankly, it's one of those. It's like a movie that's 4 hours long, but only feels like an hour and a half. So that is one side of it. The excuse me. The other side of that coin is this track is incredibly difficult to learn and to master and to race on. This video was supposed to have been a live commentary. However, I just couldn't do it. I have spent a few sessions and many hours trying to record this race, and don't need to spoil the whole thing, but there is something that happens in one of the final corners on the last lap where normally this video would not have made the cut, or this gameplay rather, this race would not have made the cut. But having spent hours and days trying to record this because of the track difficulty, I was more than happy. Well, not more than happy. I was okay with I was okay and satisfied with taking the race that I had, even though there might be a big upset on the last lap. So getting to that, this track is not just pretty sights and flowy corners. It is a very difficult track. There are some segments of the track, some corners where your line choice is everything. It's not one of those corners, or it's not one of those tracks, rather, where you can pick any kind of line through your corners and make it through. This corner that we're going through right here is a prime example of that. If you can see the AI apex way... well, technically earlier than I apexed, or way later, depending on how you want to view how I entered that corner. But you're supposed to hit the apex pretty much on the exit of that on that one S, and I hit it at the wrong time. I come in too early and then end up hitting it too late, and I'm off on my line. And what's important there is, as you go through those final few S's, you need to be in the right spot, because if you're on the curbs at all, your car was just going to slide out from underneath you more often than not, and pretty consistently so. So that being said, you really have to have a lot of precision at this track, more so than you might guess for being a fictional track. This corner specifically is pretty awesome and pretty variable in which the lines you could take it. This corner right here has a little bit of play as we go through it, but this corner coming up, there is one fast line through it, right? You're going to be able to see why. It's a narrow corner. You can take it too wide, though, and we do during this race. But this little complex right here, there's only one line, and this corner right here, there's one exit, or apex, rather, that you have to hit before the exit in order to really maximize this straightaway. So it's a really, really interesting and technical track that is always keeping you going, whether it's making sure your braking points and your exits are perfect, and then in between those, you don't get a moment of rest. You're constantly modulating the throttle, you're constantly playing with the brake, and you're constantly lining up the car and maximizing where you're at on track with your positioning. It's just an immersive ride, 10 out of 10. I strongly recommend it. If you haven't already, pause the video now, click on the link in the description, go get this track. It is a must-have. I don't know how else to put it. It is a must-have. Speaking of must-haves, we have the RaceSimStudio Formula Hybrid 2020, and maybe I'm just an RSS fanboy, but this is my favorite of the Formula 1 2022 cars available on the market. Maybe it's just because of the standard of work that they do, but the attention to detail is second to none. I mean, there are others that compete with it, but it just, in my personal preference, there is already so much more than I've delved into available to me in just these details, both big and small. And speaking of big details, one of the big things was the addition of a physics handling, I guess you can call it patch, or an additional mod that can be installed with the car, which will allow it to porpoise. It will allow porpoising to come into play with your car, and you can see it a little bit at times on this track, because it does have nice long straights, so you can really get up to speed. So you can kind of see it in action and see what it does, but it doesn't have as much impact on the car as you might assume from the real life racing implications where we're seeing. Obviously, we're not going to see a situation where a virtual car is going to end up hurting your back. Maybe if you have a butt kicker or some sort of, some sort of rumble assisted motion rig. Maybe that is a situation, but there's never going to be a situation like that where you're getting, in pain from your porpoising on Assetto Corsa. But I think maybe I would have preferred a bigger impact to the handling or just to something, because you can see it here. We are bouncing up and down, but it doesn't have an impact other than making my G29 rumble like crazy and get really loud. So that was a little bit unfortunate. Maybe if I had a better wheel or wheelbase, I would feel more precise changes from that rumble that was just more than anything making noise from the G29. But so yeah, maybe if I had a different wheelbase, I'd be getting some different fine details that would impact how I'm thinking about the way that porpoising has an effect on the car. But it is cool to see nonetheless. I've seen a lot of people say, why would you even want that to be in the game if you're, especially in sim racing, for the points we already talked about. There's no impact, so to say, as far as it would manifest itself in the physical world. But I do like the attention to detail. I do like that it is similar to what I could go watch on Sunday afternoon and then go and recreate and see myself also bounce down the road too, just for that reason alone. I don't necessarily have the purest reaction of saying, well, no, I need to be grappling with the same obstacles that the real drivers are, because I know I'm not. Obviously I'm not. And so I'm willing to suspend, I guess we can call it disbelief in these certain situations, but there are just certain things that won't have an effect in sim racing, and that's one of them. So all of those words to say, I am a fan of the porpoising effect change that they made to the physics that are available. I've installed them on both versions of the car. I don't see myself removing them, just because if we're being honest, it adds a realism and immersion to the game without having an effect on you, and that's kind of a win-win, because you don't want it to be something that takes away or detracts or distracts in any way, shape, or form, and you want it to add. And I think that's the situation where we're in. It's not making anything negative, but it does add a little bit. So that is a nice touch for them to have. And here, as we are heading down the back straightaway, we're coming almost to the end of the second to last lap. We are in second place, fighting and battling for the win, trying to find an opportunity to take first place from, I can't get the number if that's Lando or if that is Danny, but I think that's Lando. But we were trying to wrestle it away from Lando, having to recharge our battery to make a final run on the last lap. But here we are. This is a situation we are in, coming to the finish line in just a few more curves, and we're this close to going from the rear of the field all the way up to the front in this incredibly difficult track, with being in a brand new car. I actually, when I started recording this video, and I started all, like I mentioned earlier, it took me a couple of different sessions over a couple different days, over many hours, and I started recording this before the Formula Hybrid 2022 was released, and I was driving the Formula Hybrid X, which was the car that was built off of the coming rule spec, but not necessarily coming off of the actual cars that we have today. And so that car was what I have the most amount of experience in, and so changing it up to this was a little bit of a shift. But I am enjoying it. One thing I am enjoying a lot is the new wheel and MFD. I've seen the most negative comments that I've seen about this car have just been about that wheel, and that's so surface level and cosmetic to me that it's not that big of a deal. But to be frank, I love this wheel, and I think it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, among any of the Formula cars, because of the information that I get from it. I get everything at a glance, and everything is still very clear and legible. I don't get lost when I'm making these quick glances. So I really love that. I like the shape of it. I like that it's flat on top so that I can get a nice view of everything that's happening on the other side. I love it. One thing that it is cool to have wheels and MFDs from actual teams that you recognize. Like, it's cool when they do the Mercedes one, but then when that gets applied to a bunch of different cars, you kind of lose this realism immersion factor when you're in a McLaren, for example, with that Mercedes wheel. So here we are. We're heading down the back straightaway on the final lap. We haven't gone back and forth for the lead, but we did trade off once in and out of turn 1. Having some wheel spin off this corner. I got to make up some room. There's got to be an opportunity. I got to make this pass. That's what's going through my head as we enter the toughest complex of this course, because you have to make sure to get the exit right here so you can put the throttle down without touching any of these curbs and sliding out. And fortunately, we make it through that problem, but we do not get on our left foot quickly enough, and boom, we slide into the wall, which is not the end of our days, but all of a sudden the engine blows after we made that little bit of second contact, and our race is over. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. All the important links that you're interested in are at the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.